Afternoon. Well, there's no sky in here and that's a good thing, but I have got a Bedford and Wikipedia. I want to talk to you about the worst electrical car that was ever in the world. Let's go sit in the motorhome. I didn't know about this until I started researching the Bedford CF. By the way, I stupidly started pulling away at that split bit, the rotten bit, and I've ruined my van already. But as you can see, it's on axle stands, and that's exactly where we need it to be for storage. In fact, let me show you the back of it just quickly before I start this video. Yes, all you in the comments saying, I don't know why you've bought this. This is why I've bought it. I'm storing stuff in it. And look at the back. I swept it all out. Hey, look, I can just go straight through the side. Whee! Look, loads of storage. And I won't show you this now, but that roller door works really well. So that's a great result. Right, let's go and sit in the motorhome, and I'm going to tell you a story about what happened when Bedford tried to make an electric van. It's like story time with Geoff. It's another YouTube channel I launched that I never got off the ground. So the Bedford CF itself was actually launched in 1969 and stayed in production until 1986. So mine being a 1983 is quite a late one. And Wikipedia is pretty useful for all of the stuff about the CF. Obviously they were very popular as ice cream vans, you know that as well. Look, here you go, little ice cream van just there. And also the CF2, which is what I've got, was a GM vehicle, and they just look mean. Look at that, look how cool that looks. So they are quite cool looking vans. But did you know they made a Bedford CF electric? Well, they did, and I'm going to tell you all about it. Look, there it is. Bedford CF electric. So this is in 1982. 100 prototypes were built and tested at Millbrook between 1977 and 1983. So way ahead of the electric car movement. It was the first electrically powered vehicle planned for mass production based on a fossil fuel vehicle platform. Did you know that? I didn't know that. The first ever fossil fuel vehicle but powered by electric for mass production was going to be a Bedford CF van, like what I just bought. You can't make this up. It was going to be built in partnership between Bedford, Lucas, that would have gone well, Chloride Group, and the UK government on a 5-year grant scheme. So again, even back then, we've got dodgy stuff going on with EV grants. Most of them were sold to government agencies like the Royal Mail and local authorities for trials. Collectively, they were driven more than 7 million miles, these electric vans. However, and this is where it gets good, the price tag was much higher than the standard CF. Well, we've seen that before, electric cars, haven't we? And, wait for it, bear in mind this is 1982, battery technology at the time was not advancing quickly. So Bedford cancelled the programme in July 1986. I was 1 month old. After 300 to 475 had been made. Where are they now? I'd love to know. The government grant scheme was wound down in 1987, and the model was withdrawn completely, and spares for it soon then dried up. Gets better. One of the prototypes was acquired and tested by Southern California Edison in 1980. My door's been painted and it's swinging in the wind. The lead acid traction batteries were housed in a compartment below the floor, and the DC traction motor was placed at the rear, coupled to a step-down reduction gearbox attached to the CF's standard differential, but rotated 180 degrees. There's 36 battery cells of 6 volts each, wired in series for a total voltage of 216 volts and a storage capacity of 180 amp hours with a total weight of 1,000 kilos. So that's just the batteries. Just the batteries are 1,000 kilos. And it gets even better. These required re-watering every 2 weeks, a procedure that took approximately 3 hours. So your electric van that you've bought to do your business, you know, to make money, has 1,000 kilos of batteries that need re-watering every 2 weeks, and it takes 3 hours. The DC traction motor had an output of 50 horsepower, 37 kilowatts, and the motor itself weighed 142 kilowatts and was made by Lucas. The motor control system was housed under the bonnet, and a small diesel heater provided cabin heating. So it's got diesel power anyway. The system featured regenerative braking, good for 1982. However, This could be turned off as it was found that in wet conditions, the regenerative braking could lock up the rear wheels in the same way as applying the handbrake. How much fun do you think that would have been? Because when you've got no weight in the back anyway, just everywhere you drive in your electric van, you're sliding into a crash. As tested in 1980, the prototype had a range which varied from, again, wait for it, 15 miles, fully loaded and on steep hills, to, wait for it, 74 miles on freeway routes with no payload and a top speed of 54 miles an hour unladen. So with nothing in it, it can only do 54 miles an hour, and it can only do that for 74 miles. That is amazing. I didn't know about this. Right, let's get into the weight stuff. A heavily modified version of the CF Electric was exported in left-hand drive to the USA, where it was rebadged and sold as the GMC Griffon. That had a payload of 1,000 kilos and a gross vehicle weight of 3.5 tons. It was 3,401 kilos, comparable to the British prototype van that we mentioned earlier. That had a measured payload of 1,000 kilos as well and 3.5 ton curb weight. No, sorry, I'm wrong. The curb weight is 2.5 tons. This was done so that Griffon could be slotted with the full-size Chevrolet van and GMC Vandora lines, although it was slightly shorter in length compared to the American counterparts. As tested in 1988, the Griffon weighed 3,000 kilos, with 1,100 kilos of that being the battery pack. More than 30 of these were exported for trials with electric utility clients in partnership with the Electric Power Research Institute, but ultimately, as with the British variant, these never were sold widely in the American market, and under testing conducted by the Tennessee Valley Authority and published in 1988, the Griffon achieved a top speed of 53 miles an hour with an urban driving range of 54 miles, giving an estimated usable storage capacity of 32.5 kilowatts an hour and an observed consumption of 1.66 miles per kilowatt, or 56 miles per gallon. How did they get that? Anyway, the Griffon was notable for being the first electric van sold by GM in the US, a market segment they would not re-enter until converting the Chevrolet Express vans into extended range EVs in 2014. So there you go. The Bedford CF that has just been purchased by Geoff Buys Cars is actually the grandfather of the electrical van movement. Who knew? Maybe we need to make my van an EV. I think we should probably get the doors open first. That's amazing. GMC and Chevrolet vans were retrofitted with the Griffon's powertrain, and later the Chrysler T-van, which featured a longer range nickel-iron battery chemistry. The Griffon also was used to test the viability of a prototype 36-volt lithium iron sulfide molten salt battery invented by Argonne National Lab. In a simulated test, the van was able to travel 200 miles with a 410 kilo load before requiring recharging, giving it an energy density 3 times greater than a conventional lead acid traction battery of equivalent weight. When did they do that then? Not actually sure where it says, but that must have been in the 90s. So in the 90s, we were able to get 200 miles of range with a 400 kilo payload, and yet it never took off. Imagine that. Right, I'm getting a phone call from Gareth, the man with the golden spray gun, and he's phoning me because we're going to do a video repairing my wife's BMW 1 Series, which you may recall, I said a little while ago was written off. No, I didn't tell you it was written off. I told you it had been reversed into by a forklift truck. It has since been written off. We've bought it back as scrap. And if you think that will be interesting, I'm going to document everything, and I'll talk you through all the numbers on how it works out as well. So if you think that will be interesting, then do let me know. Right, I'm going to paint my motorhome today because it's sunny. But what I will do at the end of this video, if you're still with me, is just show you my interior. So we've got Mrs. G's strawberry jam, wallpaper, and a green wall at the back. So let's see what this looks like later on today. Thank you very much for watching.